the dawn of another day, and the Commandos are on the move, preparing to attack another drug laboratory.
So going back to Helmand, considering it's obviously a hotspot, how do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, pretty confident. We've got pretty good intelligence for this one, so it's vicinity the same area as last time, so we know the area pretty well.
100 metres away, the SAS is also getting ready. The SAS is going out again. You have to be here to get a sense of the sheer relentlessness of all this. You'll see the men in the morning in the mess with the camouflage paint still on, having come back from a mission, and then soon after, like now, another crew is going out. And what is also hard to get your head around is the fact that going out is what they'd rather do.
It's the psyche of your soldier, I suppose. I mean, like I said, they're very high functioning individuals. No one likes to be seen as being a person that's not able to cope.
Every mission must be conducted with a representation of at least 33% of the partner force, in this case Afghan police from the local special response team, who are different. How hard is it for you sometimes to adjust, like to hurry up and wait, that sort of thing, to the Afghan way?
Well, I guess you saw it this morning. We asked them to be here at 6:30. 7 o'clock they rock up, but they do it their way.
Wally! When the Australians are not patrolling with the Afghans, they are training them. Fast-tracking courses in arrests, evidence collection, navigation, planning, and in this instance, unarmed combat.
You have to make the training enjoyable. We're back in Australia, I guess you just do it and soldiers accept they have to do it. We're here, if you don't make it enjoyable, the numbers they just won't turn up, less and less.
This SRT commander was earlier brought to Australia to help strengthen both the skills and the partnership.
It'll be an overnight mission for, we only need 4 of your men.
There is no denying the degree of difficulty. In November, 3 Australians were killed by an enemy masquerading as a friend. This followed an earlier murder of an Australian Army cook by an Afghan ally. Afghan police in particular have had a poor reputation for collaborating with the Taliban, for extorting the local population, and for drug use.
I haven't seen them smoke marijuana at all, but in the early days they used to, and a lot of Australians would refuse to go out and patrol with them because they were under the influence of marijuana.
Adapting to the Afghan way calls for patience and compromise.
What do you think? Is this one too hard?
No, I don't think it's too hard. I think it is certainly very challenging.
The challenge is most apparent in the key relationship the coalition has formed with a former warlord turned police chief, Matullah Khan.
It is unlikely that you'll come across anyone of any real power in Afghanistan that hasn't had some sort of past. It's a tough country that's had a very hard history.
How do you avoid fighting his personal war?
You know, any personal interests he might have really don't come into play when we conduct operations with his partner force.
The Australian frontline soldiers who bear the significant brunt of the challenge here for mentoring a sometimes doubtful partner say that the Afghans have come a long way. They also say you can't for a second relax your guard.
If we catch a Taliban unarmed, he'll come back here and go to jail for a few years, but if he's caught, he will, they'll kill him regardless of whether he's armed or not armed. We're governed by rules where these guys have their rules. They're slightly different to ours. Like we had 12 prisoners, 12 detainees the other day, and Usman knew that they were Taliban and he wanted to kill them right then and there, and I said, no, you can't.
You know, I guess at the end of the day, if I prefer not to work with them, then Afghanistan will never ever be its own country. I'm happy to work with them. I've been left alone with them for them providing me security while I've been doing some bits and pieces, and I trust them wherever I go.
Today's mission for the SAS is a deeper insertion.
The Taliban can ID sort of choke points, roads, where they're going to drive, whereas we can pretty much just drive anywhere. So our freedom of movement is across the desert, wherever. However, the Taliban find it very hard to ID against these, and also we're smaller. we can't be targeted as quickly. We can move a lot faster, and if we need to shoot and run, we can shoot and run.
US CH-47s, the Sugar Bears as they're known, will carry a scouting party of two-wheel and quad bikes into an area where they will conceal and watch and listen.
Often those operations require a bit of ground truthing, so a bit of detailed intelligence that vectors us onto a particular area. In this modern age, you can have all the sensors, all the UAVs, all the intelligence in the world, but nothing, even to this day, nothing replaces the old Mark I eyeball.
The mission is in support of the larger mentoring task force, which operates beyond the main base in smaller outlying patrol bases. The holding of this ground can be seen as the short straw, the MTF more exposed to IED threats and less equipped for aggressive retaliation.
My soldiers don't expect that on a daily basis, but they're exposed to danger constantly, and they don't know when that danger is going to appear and where it's going to appear from or what form it takes. And I think that that's the big difference.
The bomber packed 1,500 pounds of
The coalition's gains do have a way of becoming shrouded in the dust of the latest IED blast or suicide bomb attack. You've been here 8 times now, is that right?
Yes, 8.
Yeah. So, is it getting better?
It's a difficult question, Chris. When we first got here when I first got back here in 2002, you could drive around in non-armoured cars, just civilian cars, drive around Terrancow was quite safe. But now you wouldn't step out of the gate unless you're in an up-armoured vehicle like a Humvee or like our Bushmasters, because the IED threat is quite bad. Now, whether we brought that into town because we're here or because we've decided to partner with the SRT boys, I don't know.
How adept is the insurgency at propaganda, at pushing their message, at monitoring the message of the coalition?
Very, very, very smart people know how to use the media to win friends in various media around the world. A small attack where a drug-induced suicide bomber will detonate himself and maybe kill 1 or 2 people, say in Kabul, no coalition, no nothing, no damage, is blown out of all proportion in my view.
A simple trip into the neighbouring town of Tarrancot tells the story. At no time in its history has this provincial capital expanded as much as it has in the last 4 years. There are paved roads, a busy commercial centre, a hospital, and even a girls' school. But we still require the protection of 4 armoured vehicles to move a couple of kilometres. The governor's compound also tells a story. On July 28, the Taliban launched a suicide attack. The victims, principally the Taliban themselves, and local civilians, including children. That day, this Special Forces nurse was on duty.
And I remember turning around and seeing little bodies literally being carried in and just covered in blood. Just the most horrific injuries. Even to this date, they're still the most horrific injuries I've seen over here.
Out of that attack, the insurgents managed to get none of their targets, some of the high-profile members of the Afghan government within Tarrancot, and that would probably be perceived by the population as a desperate attempt that failed dismally and, of course, killed locals. So in actual fact, it was a disaster for the insurgents. It was a failure on all accounts.
At this meeting with the Special Forces commander, the target of the attack, Afghan Governor Mohammad Shirzad, says he still gets complaints about coalition targeting, but they are minor in comparison.
The people that come through are very grateful, and they certainly don't seem to blame the coalition from what I've seen. They don't blame us at all.
Beautiful kick,
As our month with Special Forces draws to a close, it is grand final weekend back at home. It seems fitting. Prominent among the soldiers' reasons given for being here is you don't train all your life to sit in the dressing room on the big day.
Of course I believe in the ethic, but I more believe in the blokes next to me. I don't want them to be in a fight without me, pretty much, and I think they'd think the same.
I think it would be a wrongdoing for us to walk away halfway through the operation. I think it would be very un-Australian not to finish a job that you started.
We can't simply go into a conflict and simply leave after we've caused damage, and we're trying to do the right thing and stabilise our country before we leave. I think that's the right thing to do.
There are 1,000 ways to tell the Afghanistan story, and not one of them would be perfectly accurate. But this story, told largely from the soldiers' perspective, is important, not just because they are here and risking their lives, but because they are good witnesses. And what is consistently intriguing is the difference between what they see and the view back home.
We begin tonight with the Australian Defence Force and its chief hitting back at growing calls for the withdrawal of our troops from Afghanistan.
You know, if you're sitting next to someone at an airport, or you're just sort of having a conversation with another friend back at home, I would say that the most question I get asked is, are we really making progress over there?
What do you say?
I say yes, we are making progress. Quite often the only thing that the public may hear is that when there is a unfortunate incident which has occurred, as opposed to the many very good missions that are completed that do have a significant effect on the battle space. So I think it's a great concept that we're opening our doors a little bit, I guess, so to allow the public to properly understand that what's happening over here from both our own perspective and the rest of the Australian forces as well.
I think now that we've got that trust, and there's an established government, there's established procedures, I think, it's going to start moving forward.
Australian Special Forces actively avoid recognition. They are practiced at keeping their secrets. A curious consequence is the ugly gains of their enemy can be better known than their own measured, disciplined, and often magnificent endeavours.